before. Yeah, Michael Guan is from Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm. So there's no German channel for Sandra.
I think she should speak Germany.
I know. I think there is one. They know German.
Oh no, this
I
Sandra is
think
in Taiwan.
She's in Taiwan, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so we have 40 people in already.
OK，可以准备开始了。
OK， 你今天他们 register 的应该有55个人吧？
对对对，所以大家陆续转换过来，所以差不多。
OK， 我们等他们一起进来好了。哦，再过个这个1-2分钟。
No problem.
Okay, yeah, one or two more minutes. Yeah, okay.
Hello, Dr. Fokker.
Hello. Hi.
Hello, yeah, Pang So, you probably met him in this in Germany.
I met you in Germany and taken your
Yeah, of course
yeah.
I remember.
We were in the same class before.
Same class, yes.
Yeah, he now practice this consultation in Singapore.
Mm.
A lot to learn from you. I think it'll be a very interesting class for these 2 days. I'm going to learn a lot from you.
Well, if my level is too low, please ask the good questions so we can rise.
I hope I can contribute some. May not, but I think a lot more to digest. I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right.
This Pang So is a very experienced planning healer.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think we can start.
Okay. Yeah, I think we are close to this. I would say probably 90% of people are signed in already. So, Dr. Fokker, probably you can start to this the
recording in progress.
Your lecture.
Yeah. Let me inform something first. Okay. So 一样就是希望中文翻译的同学，请你们在左下方的那个口译频道选择中文的频道。Then so for those who need the English, then in case that we will have the sound discussion in Chinese, then you can choose the channel to the English in case you don't miss out anything. Okay. So I will let the time to Dr. Fokker. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be with you. I feel very honored to have a 2 days presentation for you. And I'm very grateful if you have any questions. So please ask the questions, because I think I will not cover all your ideas just by a presentation. I will first introduce myself and talk a bit about the probable outcome of this presentation of the 2 days, and make you familiar with what we are going to see and to hear. And so I'm going to share my screen for you. So you should now see my first slide of the presentation. This is a disclaimer. I think that you have seen it all day, once a day at least, and so we can skip that a bit. I've been a physician for 40 years, meanwhile, 42 years. I've trained as a general practitioner, but I also have experiences as a doctor of anesthesiology and plastic surgery. So it was maybe 30 years ago when I did a lot of plastic surgery. But more and more, I choose to go to an alternative part of medicine. And from 1985 on, I was using acupuncture in the 90s and early decade of this year. I've been a teacher in acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine. So I'm a bit acquainted to the medicine you are familiar with just by nature. I'm the owner of a clinic for holistic medicine. This is, I'm based in Königswinter. This is close to the former capital of Bonn on the Rhine area. Our motto is happy and healthy, and we are providing a medicine with brain and heart. I'm also the chairman of the German Academy for Energy Medicine and Bioenergetics. So I'm working with energy medicine and information medicine also on a scientific basis. And I have a center, or yes, kind of a center for, we call it Magic Medical Coaching. So this is, of course, based on medical coaching, but we put the magic part on it because we are very spiritual. So we are inviting other forces to join and to help people get better. We have trainings. The Bioenergetic Health Coach is a seminar which has a 1-year endurance. There are several PDFs, several textbooks, and there are in-person trainings. Last year, of course, we did not have so many in-person trainings, but we did this online, and I had a course in Bulgaria, which worked very well. So in-person, of course, is definitely better. I'm the author of 2 books that deal with self-healing.
Sorry, the other book, maybe you can unmute yourself. Just now, wrongly click.
Okay, now you should hear me again.
Yes, yes, perfect. Thank you.
So where should I start? When did you?
Yeah, I think this slide. Starting from this slide.
This slide? Okay, fine, great, thank you. So I'm the author of 2 books that deal with self-sufficiency, self-responsibility, self-healing. The first, this was published in 2015. The German title, Mit Absicht gesund, is well translated into English, intentionally healthy. So you are you have to decide to be healthy. And this is impulses for self-healing. We have a special technique. It's kind of a kinesiology. It comes from kinesiology. So we are using kinesiology, but in a very specific way. And those who have attended courses in Germany, I think they have seen this, how this works. I can tell something about that during this session. So the second book, which is very new, so it's really about a month old. So this is this one. It's the license for self-healing. So to clear old patterns and to program health. So what are we going to do for the next 2 days? I'm going to talk about information medicine, medical coaching, holistic health, how to integrate time waiver systems in these areas, how to use the time waiver med, of course. We will integrate the cardio. We will talk about healing. We will also talk about frequency, how we can combine them, the different systems, to help people getting healthy again. So let's talk about purpose and content. You see this here. The purpose of this presentations of these 2 days is to provide you with profound information about special features of the time waiver med system for therapists and medical coaches, for practitioners, for people in the health sector. I will provide several short yet comprehensive approaches to particular modules and indications. I will provide you with my insights that I have through experience from thousands of real cases, which I've seen in my outpatient clinic. We will talk about time waiver modules and databases, how to combine them, how to create own databases. We will talk about, of course, about the tools and the indication of these tools. So we will learn the analysis. You are already practitioners, so we will not go that too basic, but we will learn the differences between the different types of analysis. Then we can learn how to combine them, how to use sets in my term for presets, maybe templates also. And then we will talk about scans, how we do scans. And then now you would say, hey, he's crazy. We have done this so often in the last years. Yes, we really should talk about scans, the quality of scans, and the energetic premises of these scans. I call this the optimal scan. And the opposite of an optimal scan is what I call a lala scan. So there's no focus during the scan, and we will see that the focus during a scan is very important. So how can we address the information field? Where do we find the information field? Where are the entrances? What do we see or recognize in the information field? And we will talk about the 3 levels: the symptoms and the causes and the roots of diseases. We will also talk about the PNEI. This is the psychoneuroendocrino-immunology. And then we will talk about the so-called foci of distortion. And then this foci could be physical, emotional, or spiritual. So foci of distortion are elements that prevent us from healing. And then we will talk about specific diseases or conditions like chronic diseases, and we have the example of the autoimmune process. We will talk about central nervous system related diseases, specific Alzheimer's, but you can ask questions anytime. So we can switch to Parkinson, whatever. Then we will have an example about cancer, how to deal with people who are suffering from cancer. And then we go to COVID with the disease and the vaccinations. From the timing, we will have this part 1 today. So we go to diseases and the representation in the information field, how we can look at diseases through the lens of the information field, or how we can find the disease or the person in the information field. what is the part of consciousness to help us there? Where is the energy? Where do we look for energetic problems? And then we can see something in the regulation part of a patient, because we are not dealing with, let's say, specimen under a microscope. We are dealing with living systems. So we have to look at the regulation system as well. I have a slide so we can talk about the reproducibility. Yeah, this is a hard word, the reproducibility. And this is one of the major things that you have to know, and you have to know why these measures are not do not deliver the same results when they are repeated. And then we have a very specific thing. We enter the fifth dimension approaches to diseases and conditions. In the second part, we will look at the possibilities of the time waver to support us in our diagnostic procedures. So to find the reasons and the causes of conditions. We will enter the organ coherence and combine deep and coarse analysis in a process which is called cascading. We will talk about focus analysis, when and why this should be run, and of course, different combinations of these types of approaches. Then we will talk about consecutive consultations, because people show up again, and then you have to know where the changes, where there are changes at all, where did something change, which is sometimes not so easy in time waver. And the third part is then we'll deal with treatment regimes, or the support possibilities of the time waver system to support us in our treatment regimes. We can talk about the optimization of the optimization lists. So how to create perfect optimization lists and templates. How we can choose proper broadcasting parameters using the checkup analysis and the matching processes. We'll talk about the consecutive broadcasts and changing parameters. And of course, we will talk about imprinting carriers, imprinting globally, or water or stones, whatever. And what will be the broadcasting parameters if we use material. And of course, we will have a part question and answers. So you're very welcome to ask your questions, and they will be translated for me into English. And then we can talk about every single item. This chart that you see on the left side, and this is sketch, we will have it when we talk about cascading. It looks a bit difficult, but once you have gone through, then you see, oh, well, it's very easy. So what is the outcome of this sessions? I hope that you will better understand the advantages and disadvantages of time waver pro modules and its analytical instruments. And I hope that you get new ideas of how to choose a holistic approach towards specific conditions. Most of practitioners, at least in the Western part, I don't know so much in the Eastern part of this world, but most of the practitioners here are so focused on symptoms, and they even don't think of causes and roots of diseases. And I'd like to introduce to you a more open vision of a disease as the expression of the real problem and not just being a disease. So we will have new ideas of how to combine the instruments and databases of the time waver systems in order to find these reasons and causes. We will create operational optimization lists, not just optimization lists, but they should work. And so how can you make sure that an optimization list is really perfect? We will interpret the results of these optimization lists and the analysis, and we will choose the critical items for even deeper analysis. And of course, we will talk about or maybe you get new ideas to choose proper optimization parameters. Yeah, then this was the preface, so to say, the foreword, and now we will start with the day one presentation or session. So what I'm going to tell you is my perspective of the medical world. Everybody has their own look at the world, and this little cartoon shall impress or express what I'm saying. Everybody has their own horn and is already looking through the horn or around the horn. And so maybe we have different views of the world. That's okay. That's perfectly okay. I think that energy and information medicine is medicine of the future. We have been trained for the last 100 years, at least, about that medicine is biochemistry and physics, electricity. And the personal aspects, the consciousness were put away. It was all about to have remedies, to have synthesized, patented remedies to deal illnesses. And I think that we have to go back, that we have to step back a bit and remember that we are human beings, that we are not a bunch of elements, a bunch of organs put together and held together with the skin, but there's a personality, and we have also to address the personality. And that's why I think that the medicine of the future is not so much disease-oriented. It will be healing-oriented. So it will not be a medicine for the masses. This will be a very individual medicine, so for any individual. And that's why I have this term on the bottom, energy, information, consciousness medicine. Then information medicine or energy medicine doesn't cover all the aspects that we really have to deal with. So we integrate consciousness, and then we have a very perfect medicine for the future. And there's one thing I would like to mention. Information only works if or when it has a meaning. So if you broadcast information that has no meaning for the recipient, then there will be no changes. But we have definitely to look for this. Then we have to embrace also the spiritual parts. I guess that we will have a very spiritual medicine, let's say, within the next 20 years or so. I hope that I will be a witness of this. I'm 67 years old now, so maybe why not 20 years of medicine still then. And you see, we have here the physics and the medicine, of course, and they are connected to the quantum. So quantum physics, we will have a quantum medicine. And this is all about, because we are connected with each other in the universe. So our medicine of the future will be a medicine that will embrace all these aspects of a universal connection between everybody. So when we go to the information field, everybody has their own information field. There's a global information field, of course, but everybody has their own. So, and the content of this information field depends on the way how you look at the world. It depends on your beliefs, on your emotions, and maybe on, at least in Germany, we have that, of this obsession of logic. Everything has to be logic, or has at least the sound logic. So on from this set, you can create a disease, or you can create health. It's only a very small switch that you choose, heading disease or heading health. And the header says, where the focus goes, energy flows. This comes from quantum mechanics. So when you focus to something, your energy will go there. That's why we focus on health and not so much on disease. Sometimes we have to look at the disease to find, let's say, the first steps, but we will always focus on the outcome. And the outcome is not a repair, it's not a repair mode to get the people back to function. We will address health. When we talk about living systems like human beings, many people say we have kind of an equilibrium, a balance, homeostasis. That's good. It's good to look at it this way. However, when you have, as a metaphor, this bath tube, and you put a specific amount of water into the bath tube, and the same amount of water will leave the bath tube, you will see a constant level of the surface. And you can say, well, it's balanced, this is very good. But there's a lot of changes within the bath tube, a lot of things coming in and getting out. So there's definitely no homeostasis, it's no equilibrium. There's a lot of entropy, a lot of forces that causes chaos. And there are forces that would create stability. And this all happens at the same time. And because of we are open systems, where energy can come in and go out, and we are non-linear systems, that our reactions do not follow lines. There are curves like sinuses or exponential curves. And we are a system depending on dissipative structures, so you have always to put some energy in to keep it working. I'm going to say that this is a stable disequilibrium. So the normal is the disequilibrium, and our systems try to keep it stable. Everything can change. This is our chance, our primary chance to change things. So we first go to discuss the diseases and their representation in the information field. The part that consciousness is playing, the energy regulation, and the terms that you heard, reproducibility and the fifth dimension approach. This is our first part, and so let's start. You are time waiver practitioners and you know the organ coherence. This also works for pets when you have the veterinarian part. But when we scan, when we examine the skin, are we checking the white or the black areas? So you have skin and the organ coherence. What are you checking? Which part? We don't really check anything there, because we are dealing with the representation of the skin, the informatic representation of the skin in the information field. So we are not checking the white areas, neither are we checking the black ones. So this brings us to the 3-level idea, how we can address diseases. German philosopher Schopenhauer said there are 1,000 diseases, but only one health. And you have this in many, many languages, that you have a plural of diseases, but you have only a singular for health. They are not healthless. Then we see here the levels. Of course, people show up in our offices because they have symptoms, because they have kind of a disease, an impairment. And then we can treat the symptoms, so they can have a painkiller or whatever. But normally people show up, there's not so easy things like just pain. So we can look for the causes of this. And these causes, or these elements or influences that keep symptoms running, have their own roots. And I will give you 2 examples to understand this more or better. The symptoms are just a manifestation of a process. That's the stage where things show up. The causes are the energetic part, and the reasons are the informational part. So let's have an example. You have a person with a sciatic nerve pain, shows up, hardly able to walk because the pain is running down the leg, and this person hardly dares to move. So then you send him or he, or maybe he or she already was or saw an orthopedic surgeon, and they said, of course, yeah, we know where the pain comes from. There's a slipped disc in L4-5 somewhere in the lumbar part of the spine. And that's the cause of your symptoms of your sciatic nerve pain. And normally in regular medicine, that's it. So they will treat the slipped disc either conventionally or by an operation, surgery. And then you wait to get better, to be repaired after 2, 3, 4 months. The problem is, if you do it like this, there are chances that this comes back at the same level, L4-5 in the lumbar spine, or maybe on a different level, maybe thoracic or in the cervical spine. Maybe there's another slip disc there, or there are some vertebrae that get weak and are breaking down, or you get osteoporosis or something like that. And that's why we, from the beginning, we like to find out where are the roots of this. So the slip disc also has a cause, if you want. So there's a root cause, a reason for the slip disc. And in many cases, for example, this is the unbearable life. So people are victims of their way of living, of their way they think, of the way they perceive the world. And perception is a major cause of disease. So when we succeed in helping people change their perception, that's a huge step towards health. So let's have a second example. It's not only the orthopedic area. Many people suffer from heart rhythm disorders, like atrial arrhythmia. And sometimes there is a disbalance in the different centers, the different processes that create different rhythms. So we have a center in the heart. There's a sinus center that gives the electricity for the heart. There are centers in the brain, and there are connecting parts like relay stations in between brain and heart, going along the vertebral, the cervical spine. So when there is a blocked cervical vertebra, let's say C2 or C1, then this may cause these atrial flittering, this atrial arrhythmia. So when you balance the blocked cervical vertebra, the information goes through and the symptoms will cease. In many cases, that's not everything, so this may come back. Then we have to ask ourselves, and the patients, of course, what could be the reason for this blockages, for this repetitive, normally repetitive blockages of cervical vertebra. And then we find this is a lack of orientation. And as I heard, there are practitioners of integrative medicine. I think they will be very familiar with this kind of thinking. So we have different levels where things show up. And now we can look, where do we find an approach to use the time waiver? The problem is there is not only one cause or one reason, one route, there are many. So where do you think could we use the time waiver? It's not the symptomatic level. The symptomatic level is very material. It's very much matter-based. So we are more in the subtle energetic areas, and these are causes and reasons. So we can have a look at how diseases are created, how they develop. So the slide looks more difficult than it is. Every disease normally starts with a dis or malinformation. So some information is going wrong. From this, we have a development. This goes from the imbalance on the energetic level to a lack of energy, to functional disturbances, through morphological changes, and then we find the death of cells. So that's why we have here the non-material energetic area, functional area, so where things are not working right, and then the morphological area where you see changes on the material level. When we have a look at the costs of the treatments, then this is interesting as well. So maybe in a session with the time waiver, when you are looking for mis or information or malinformation, you may take, let's say, 50 euros, 100 euros, maybe 200 euros. But if you go to the morphological area, then you have hundreds of thousands of euros or dollars to invest, like a transplantation of an organ or so. So that's why we try to find the reasons, the starting points very early, just to prevent the disease from developing. And the energy and information medicine is very good, very, very effective. And the left part here, so in the part that we can even say prevention. So the more functional changes or disturbances are there, the more morphological changes or death of cells happens, the less we can really interfere with just information. We will talk about that. And as I always say also in my seminars, for me, the time waver is a tool. This is like the ECG or like a MRI or so. It's a device, a very intelligent device, but to make it an expert system, there must be an expert in front of the keyboard. Then you have really an expert system. So the time waver system is a very intelligent helper, assistant. And you have to interpret the outcome, the results of the analysis to make the best out of it. So you get really interesting, really perfect results, but you have to be able to interpret these results in a positive way. So when we put the practitioner on the left side and the client on the right side and the time waver in between, so we have on the lowest level the three, and they are interconnected via the time waver machine, but they are not directly interconnected. They need the quantum field. So this is the middle part where intention plays a role. So we leave the space of particles and go up in the space of waves. And then we have above the quantum field, we have the huge information field. And there we meet as a client with our practitioner. So we have three different levels, and then we have to combine them and make the best out of it. And you know this energetic chart already. So mostly we are in the blue area. We are in the R4, so the three-dimensional matter-based realm, and then we have the time as the fourth dimension. This is the area where we can use our senses. There's also the visible light. Then we go up and we go to the energetic control fields. And then you see here, this is the area where the time waver works. So this is a realm of time waver, not the blue one. So we are in the green one. So we have always to look for the green aspects of the blue symptoms, if you can follow my train of thoughts. What people experience, what they let see you in your offices, is the blue things. They have symptoms. Even depression is in this way is a symptom. But when we use the time waver system, we are already approaching the green area. And if we want to change something, we have to put a lot of perfect information in the green sector and even in the yellow sector, the global information field. So these are the very specific areas where time waver works. And with this combination, you can address the psyche, you can address soul, you can address karma, everything, every non-material, any subtle thing. So let's go back to find the cause of an illness. This is a different way to see the different energetic levels, the dimensions. So when we think that a disease has its origin in the levels above R4, so maybe in the energetic control field, dimension 5 and 6, or even above, then we just are dealing with a projection of these disturbances and the R4 that we are experiencing in life. Of course, you have your pain in R4, or you have difficulties to see or to hear or to smell in the R4. You can move your muscles or your joints, that's R4. But when we try to address these malfunctions, these impairments, we do not go to these R4 symptoms directly with the time waver. We are not addressing the substance there, the physical part, the biochemical part, even though the organ coherence may suggest this by its wording. We are not addressing really the biochemical molecules. We are addressing their function. We are addressing their mission, or why they don't really live their mission. So this is the problem with the different energy levels. And many people who use the organ coherence are handling the organ coherence like a symptomatic microscope. That's not the case. We will see this when we go in the practical part and when we work live with a time waver system. So when you are a practitioner and you have a therapist and the patients, so the T is the therapist, P is the patient, then normally you have an energetic connection in between them. This should be there. It's hopefully. But when you add something like software, like time waver, then you get two more connections. The connection between therapist and the software or device, and the connection between the patient and the software device. And the magic connection between the three is consciousness. So the patients have their consciousness, the therapists have their consciousness, and so does the time waver. So we have a connection of three different individual consciousnesses. And this makes the environment, this creates the environment where we are going to work and heal, if you want. And this system is called the cybernetics of the second order. A closed system only takes on different information or changes if the system can expect a benefit from the change. If you give an information, the system does not expect a positive change, the information will not work. And that's what I said in the beginning. Information is only working if it has a meaning for the recipient. The meaning has to be understood. And it's a very simple example. So when I was in Beijing the last time, it was 2010 or so, I had to go to the southwest in Beijing to find my hotel, and the taxi driver was not able to find this road from the beginning because it's the same road. There are two roads with the same name, one in north at the airport and one in the southwest. But I knew how to talk to him because of my very, very basic knowledges of Chinese. But when there's something written in Chinese, I'm an analphabet. I'm not able to get the information. And even this information would be very important for me, like a warning. I couldn't get the meaning from that. So we have not only to provide the information, we have to provide the information in a way that the recipient could take it on and interpret this information for their own purposes. So it's not just pushing or putting information in the information field, we have to make sure that the information can be understood. And sometimes, so like in this presentation, we need interpretation. So how can we address the information field? As we saw in one of the slides, that we meet therapist and client meet in the information field, or everybody has their representation in the information field. So let's take two different persons. Let's say me, okay, you know me now, and this other person is my wife. So we have two different positions, locations in the information field. Everybody has their own location, their own point in the information field. So when we now take the time waver and we connect the time waver by scanning the first time, we can have a correlation or a contact with the information field, and we can address the location, so the IP address, if you want, of this person in the information field. If we take the same time waver but connect this other person, then we will find a connection to the other person's location in the information field. So that's what is the secret of the time waver, that we have a connection to the representation, the location, and the information field of this given patient. So when we now have this patient and we have the information in the time waver, then we even do not need the patient at all. We have this information, we have the connection to this yellow dot, this location, and then we can read from there. We can read the information which is provided on this yellow dot within the information field. And then we can take the information and we can create remedies or whatever. So this is a bidirectional communication. We can read from the information field, from this location, and we can write on this specific spot. However, we do not know whether the information which we put there will be interpreted the right way, understood, and create changes in the given living system or form. So we are reading in our 5, 6, 7, 8. We are putting information there, and we wait for the changes in R4. So when we want to get a good connection to our clients, that makes us or gives us the chances to go to the backgrounds, the causes and the roots, the reasons. Of course, we do have to know something. We should be an expert. We should also have practical skills. We should be able to communicate. And this is the hugest button, because communication is 90%. So that's what we have to learn and be an expert in. This is communication. And the major part of the communication is that we learn to listen. People don't only tell their stories, they normally know their solutions. And we have to listen carefully to what they are telling us and find out the parts that are leading us through the solution. as I said, what I'm telling you is my perspective. You may have a very different one. That's perfectly okay. And if you recognize my one, just please tell me. So when we go back in the R4, our living system, our human being system, is a combination of many, many areas, many, many functions. There are hundreds of thousands of reactions per second in every single cell. And when you say we have about 60, 70 billion, or in the million cells, and multiply this by 100,000, then you end up in 10 to the power of 12, 15, 20 reactions per second in any body. There are systems that contain a lot of these functions, and we are used to call this neurology or psychology or immunology or endocrinology. And it's not so, maybe it's about 10 or 15 years that scientists found out that there's a strong connection, a very strong connection. And this is a very young science, this neuroendocrino-immunology. And we see that if we just address one part by our treatments or diagnostics, we are also at the same time addressing the others because they are so closely connected to each other. So when we just take the example of the sciatic pain, a neurologic problem, then we have the psychological part. We have an endocrinology part. And this is also affecting the immune system. So we are going to talk about this today and tomorrow, about these combinations. So we have not only to look on the symptomatic area, we have to look on the other areas that are correlated to that. And then we have to find a way how to take the time waiver, how to use the time waiver to help us find all these sources, this information. So then we have something to consider. We are holograms, so the information is stored in us. And this is an example. We have a two-dimensional plate, glass, and when you take light, restart, when you take a lamp, then you can see the information stored in this plate. So the information, as you see, is three-dimensional, but the carrier is two-dimensional. So we are four-dimensional carriers. That says that the information stored in our system is at least fifth or sixth dimension. So the information stored in a hologram is at least one dimension higher than the carrier has. What you need here is light, and the information that you see depends on the angle that in which you beam the light on the carrier. So when you have different practitioners, the same patient, so the same hologram, and the one patient has the lamp going with the light from above, from the left or from the bottom, all these practitioners will have a different view, and of course they will have different results. They will see different aspects of the same patient. And they will discuss, and will say, no, you are right, I'm right, this is so and this is so. No, this is the same information, it's just a different angle, just a different point of view, And we have, if we succeed, we have to take different points of view ourselves to see the patient in the right way. It's not only one perspective that we should have to see a patient. And there's something more to be considered. We are just human. So our brains are trained, and they're not trained the perfect way. So when you look at the screen, most of you will see movement. So when you focus one of these flowers and you just take the focus to a different one, then you will have the impression that these flowers are moving a bit. You just go around with your eyes and then you see the flowers moving. Of course, you know they are not moving. There aren't even flowers. What we interpret as flowers are black, white, blue, and green pixels. And even the definition of blue, black and white is very human. So there's no movement, there's no flower, but we see flowers moving. That's because of the training our brain has undergone. And you can't stop it. You can't stop it by just closing one eye. So it's more difficult to see movement with only one eye. Some are able to. But the problem is that you can't prevent yourself from seeing these different movements. Why is that so? Because we are trained that there is only one sun creating one shadow in one direction. In this picture here, you have at least two suns creating shadows in two different ways. And when we focus and change our focus from one flower to the next one, our brain will correct automatically the view of the other flowers to make it logic. So we create our thoughts, our perception, our perspective, just to make things understandable or logic. And this is the same thing that we have really to consider when we work with a time waiver system. You see things, you see the results, and then you have to interpret, but you will interpret from the basis of your knowledge, of your expectations. And this is one of the parts that we are going to talk about, to get rid of your expectations. I have one more slide for you. You see this young lady turning, and there are people who see her turning in clockwise, and there are people who see her counterclockwise. So if you want to change the movement of this lady, you just need to take your hand and to cover the upper part of the body just with your hand, so that you see only the hip, the knees, and the feet. And when you wait a bit, this lady will change direction. And when you open again, then we'll turn to the primary direction that you saw her. And we cannot say that the clockwise direction is the best one, or the right one, or the counterclockwise. There is no right or wrong. It's just the way we see it. So they found out that when you are a right-brainer, so when the right hemisphere of your brain is your leading hemisphere, then you will see this lady turning clockwise. When your left brain is dominant, then you will see her turning counterclockwise. And as I said, there's no right and no wrong. But when you say this is still the same, so just wait Yeah, okay, yeah, it happened. Just wait, it takes some seconds, maybe 30 seconds, so why not? And when you train with this kind of slides, then you can train your brain to activate the right hemisphere, the left hemisphere, the right, and you can really change. You can really be the boss in your brain and activate your hemispheres, so you can look at the same problem with the left and the right hemisphere. So you get the logic part, the part of the digits, the part of the measurable things, and you can also see the intangible part of the world, the why, the how, and not only the facts. And this is really important, that we are trained as practitioners to use both hemispheres and not only rely on the left, on the logic part, as we were trained the last 100 years. And some may, yes, as you see in the chat, some will see it turning left, turning right, turning left. That's the flickering of the hemispheres. This is good. That's perfect. You can try to force her, say, turn right or turn left, and she will do. So it's just to getting you a new aspect of your brain, how it works. Yeah, and this, no, this is not a split personality. This is just the activation or dominance of your hemisphere. So this has nothing to do with personality. So let's go on. When people show up with a disease, at least with a chronic disease, so maybe not the flu, just so, maybe a chronic disease. This disease has a history. And it's very likely that there was an event in former times, maybe in childhood. And this was not just an event, there was something that was really hurting. There was an emotional part connected with this event. And the emotional signature of this event makes this event a trauma. And maybe some years later, a similar or same event happened, and there's another emotional signature on it, and it's maybe a bigger trauma or increasing the experience of the old trauma to create a bigger trauma. Normally we try to hide or just ignore what happened. And the more often or the more violent your experience are, you tend to dissociate. You can't keep it for yourself. You have to express this somewhere, and then you see a doctor, a practitioner. So you have this consultation. And our task is to take the injury and the emotion which causes together the trauma, to separate the emotional signature and to help our patients to remove it. And that what remains is just an experience. And without the emotional signature, this event, the experience, isn't anymore a trauma. It's just an event. And you can remember or forget, but there's nothing that has kind of an emotional signature or emotional recall. So our task is to rewrite the life calendar, to delete the energetic signatures, not to delete the events, but the energetic signatures. And then these traumas will go away, and what will be left is just the event, without any recall of an emotional fixation. So you can recall this event as often as you want, but there will be no emotional fixation. And this is healing. You know, this is just clearing the memory, clearing the traumatic memory. And we can use this in patients with a post-traumatic stress disorder, with abuse histories and all this. So we just rewrite the life calendar. And when we do this, our system can't remember the trauma, and so you can't refresh the trauma by a situation that's like this primary situation was when you got your first trauma. So this is life-saving, this kind of way. And I will introduce you to this way how to rewrite a life calendar using the time waver system, how to find the trauma. It's not the timeline, there's something more. So what is our, let's say, our goal? When I talk to my patients, I have kind of this pattern, this schedule. And you say, we start at point 1 where you don't feel really well. So there's much space left for improvement. And then we start and people see an improvement. And then we come here to this state where they say, well, it's quite okay. So I'm functioning again. It's good. It's good. So, and then most people stop. And the normal way is that they stop doing treatments, doing exercises, whatever, and they follow the normal curve. So this red dotted line is the normal curve. And within a few months, weeks, whatever years, they return to point number 1, to the bad area, which is quite normal. So this is kind of a fire brigade. It burns, then you get the fire brigade, so they're getting rid of the fire, then leave the area, and after a couple of weeks or months, the fire comes back, and then you call the brigade, fire brigade, and they will extinguish the fire, and so it goes on and on. I try to convince my patients to follow the green line, to go to a next level, to take the optimal line, to reach a better state, or even the state where you say, wow, that's great. So you have kind of a health deposit from which you can live. And when then something happens, you go maybe from 5 or from plus 100 to 0, but you are still good. But if you do nothing from point 3, you go to bad. It's very different. So that's why I like to convince my patients to follow me, helping them to go to point number 5. So there's a question, if we change the emotional signature of the patient, would we be changing the karma of this person and he or she misses life lessons? No, no, we will not. When you take, or when you invite events or traumas to enter your life, this may be part of your mission. This may be even part of your karma, but you are not forced to suffer. When you are forced to learn, this learning could also happen by dissolving the problem. Let it go, letting go, freeing yourself. So you don't have to suffer because somebody tells you there's a karmic relation. We are cutting off karmic patterns on an almost daily basis. They are there so you can develop yourself. There are chances for increasing your personality. So we don't really change the karma. So if you stop doing bad things, that's the best way to stop your karma. You have to learn lessons, and the lessons learned does not mean suffered. So when you say, I have been suffering for 50 years now, I have the gold medal for suffering, this is not why we are here. So maybe you start when you are 10, or when you start maybe when you are 70, to get rid of all these old patterns. I would not treat a person who is as a new relationship, when who's kind of lovesick, you know. The person has to go through this. Or when there's grief, when a person left, when a person died, we can assist this person to go through the grief. I would not treat the grief or the person. Even, let's say when there's after 3 or 4 years and there's still grief and pain, I would say, okay, then we have to do something. But not when this grief is based on a very current, very actual event. This is a learning process to learn how to deal with yourself when you are in grief. So this is the optimal healing curve. I wanted to tell you how I work in this way. I'm not the fire brigade. I'm not one. So that's why of course, I'm doing acupuncture still. There were years when I had maybe 50,000 or more needles per year. Now I'm about between, let's say, 8,000 and 10,000. So it's definitely down to 20% what I did before. I'm more oriented to leave the symptomatic and energetic level and go to the informational level. And this is to go to plus 100, to understand life, to deal with life, to change the decisions that we make, to make sure that we will not have the same experiences after 3 or 5 years in the future. And if the client is not willing or does not believe in the treatment, you can definitely stay on the symptomatic level and treat them with needles and painkillers, whatever. Secretly, so to force the treatment on the person will not be able, because there will be no meaning of the information. The meaning is done by a conscious consent of the patient in the healing process. And that's why sometimes hypnosis works really good, and sometimes it doesn't. And when the person will not give you the consent, the inner consent, not the spoken, but the inner consent, to be in a more healthy position, maybe to be on the wow phase, it's hard to get any treatment, any change. If this is my own child, son, or I have 2 daughters, and my daughters are 45 and 39 years old, so have their own children. I would not force them to do anything. I will always ask for the consent. It's like a buffet that I'm offering. So you have the salads and you have the meat and the vegetables and whatever, and they may choose what they want to take. I will not force them to eat this or eat that. I'm just offering, explaining what this thing is good for, what is the expected outcome, but it's their decision. It's their life, it's their decision, and it's their choice. But when people refuse to take the positions 4 and 5, or even to imagine to have a chance to go there, then it's harder. So then maybe there's a reason why they want to stick on the physiological level and not go further. So then we have to look for the, let's say, for the advantages of their role of a victim. So we have to talk to them and find out why it's so beneficial for them to be a victim. That's most of these cases are related to a minority conflict problem. Then we have a question, Alzheimer cases. Yeah, Alzheimer, we have to look, we will address Alzheimer specifically, because Alzheimer is a very interesting disease, or all this dementia. It's a very interesting disease. And there's, let's say, kind of a point of no return. So you can really stop trying to treat or to get the people back. What we will use, which remedies we use, which models we use, with databases, that comes later. So I will answer the questions of how to treat later when we go to the specific diseases. When we explain what we are doing to people who are stuck in the physical view of the world, then we have to admit that we can't repeat a measurement and expect the same result. And they would say, well, this is unscientific, because one of the scientific rules that you have to repeat and repeat and repeat an attempt, and it has to bring the same or almost same, at least similar results. This is not so when it comes to quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and not with quantum medicine. We, as a therapist, you are part of the triangle, which is spanned between the client, the software device, and you. You, as the observer in quantum mechanics, are influencing the result. So when you bring your own problems into this triangle and you do a scan, there are some results in the scan which are related to your problems and not to the ones of the client. When you put an information to a body through checkup analysis or whatever, then you change the setting. So this person is not the same as it was before. And that's why we will have definitely different results, because we are measuring a different person when we have done a checkup analysis. I have a metaphor to understand this. When you're talking to a person and you are telling a joke, and this person didn't know the joke before and he likes the joke, then she will laugh a lot. So when you take the same joke and tell the same joke to the same person a second time, maybe this person will laugh again because this is so new and she can laugh a second time. If you tell the same joke, the same person, a 10th time, maybe this person will get angry. Even though it was the same information, it was the same joke. But this person has changed, has interpreted, has taken on the information of the joke, and then you can really get the opposite reaction that you intend to do. And this is the difference. When we take information as a tool, as a healing tool, we are changing the setting. And then we have to adapt our information for the next step. That's what homeopaths do. You have a first remedy, and depending on the reaction of the patient, you choose a second one. You will not repeat the first one. So when we have broadcasting parameters, when we say we have a problem here and we put the same list for 3 months on this patient and hammer the information on the patient, sometimes we get really adverse reactions. Sometimes this will not work. This is the easiest way, but sometimes we get the opposite, or we get adverse reactions because we are hammering the same information on a system that that's filled up with this information and just wants to get rid of it. So this is what we will talk about when we take the holistic approach, when we see a person not only as a selection or a combination of building parts. So when we see that there is an informational connection, there's an endocrine connection, neurological connection. You see the P in the eye. We have to look for this because we experience our clients in the R4, in the 4-dimensional area. But we are not working with these patients in these 4 dimensions. We are working in higher dimensions, but we will see the results in the R4. So reproducibility is a problem for those who have learned physics and want to stick there. So when we go back to this slide that we had beforehand, in these upper areas, we have the area of the informational solutions. This is what we are looking for. We want to change the informational setting to get different projections. Yeah? So when we change there in dimension 5, 6, 7, 8, we will have a different projections to R4. And this is our goal. So we will not directly interfere in the R4. We are going to a higher dimension, change the setting there, and wait for the work of the system to create different projections down to R4 and see the changes there. So maybe the next slide is a bit confusing because we use here the word dimension as well, but it's not so much the dimension of Burkhardt-Heim. So this is very complex, and you will see it put down to parts. But when we look for solutions, we have different areas, different dimensions, different areas of solution. And now let's go through them. When something is hurting you, when something is hitting you, so maybe it's the current situation. So you are forced to do something, you are locked in, locked down, locked out, whatever. Then you would say we are going to the First Testament, or we are enjoying our envy or greed. We are thinking in revenge modes, or eye for an eye. Okay. Many people are acting like this. Level 1. So, level 2 is that you understand that something is happening, but they, whoever that is, the people there, they will know what to do and what we have to do, and you keep being passive. The work. The life is happening to you. So then you go one level up. You have the insight and there's something wrong. And then you say, "Pooh, I'm so tiny me. So I can't do anything. I'm too powerless." And you go in the state of resignation. The outer world will not change because there's no impulse coming from you to change the world for you. So the world is just happening to you. So go one level up. You get maybe different information. You look for different information. You are interacting on social media. You may be thinking of resistance. You say, "Wow, I'm a powerful person, and I'm not allowing the other people to take all these decisions and change my life." So you think, or you take on the power. You know that you are powerful, and you pump yourself up, and you see, "I am a warrior." Wow. But it's more resistance, and you go to a demonstration and you express your thoughts. the world, the outside world may change a bit for you. But there is one more level we can use. That's what we call the fifth dimension approach. This is not the fifth dimension of Burkhardt, but let's call it level 5 approach. We think of the big picture. We think of how shall the world be when everything is done, or even better, how will the world be after all these processes? So we start with the end in mind. We have our vision, how things should be and therefore will be. We take our individual consciousness as a powerful tool and create something. We create ideas let's say in the universe, where new ideas can condensate around, like condensation kernels, with the vapor is adding, and then you get drops. And we are also using the global consciousness, because we are part of the global consciousness, but we try to convince the universe that the information, the picture of the world we have is the best possible. And so you get all these energies, all the forces that are available to support you in your picture. And then you have the ability to manifest different things, or you manifest things that are very much different from the time right now. So we go out of the matrix. We are not fighting the matrix. We go out of the matrix and create a new thing and allow different things to manifest. And you can use this picture here, these approaches, to change your life for a better relation, for a better financial state, for a better life at all, and of course, for better health. So I try to convince my patients to create the picture of the happy and healthy person, not being a patient anymore, not needing to express any turbulence by a disease. So we start with the end in mind. We do this so forceful, so powerful, that the universe is just forced to understand and to help us, to support us. So this is a part of the radical trust in the spirit world, or however you call it. So this is what I'm talking to my patients who have chronic conditions. And I have one specific patient I have to tell you. This person, a male person, was 82 years old when he entered my clinic for the first time. This is a couple of years ago. 82 years. He had to use a walker so he could stand alone, and he was really ill. He was very lean and very huge lack of substance. And he came in with pains, and he was diagnosed with a prostate cancer with metastasis here and there. And the PSA, this specific antigen, this laboratory result, where the normal range is between 1 and 4, was as high as 2,500. So 2,500 was the value of this array parameter, which normally is 1 to 4. His wife has gone through a cancer experience a couple of years ago, so I could help her go through this cancer and get healthy again. And so she said, okay, maybe this works with me as well. He got only one homeopathic remedy, he got one hormone blocker, and Nobody, no radiation, no surgery, nothing else. A lot of affirmations dealing with his life. So rewriting the life calendar using time river systems. And a lot of talking was our treatment. And after 6 months, he took his motorbike and started to motorbike again. And last year, he told me this summer that in 2020, he had 1,000 kilometers of biking, not motor, but biking. And in the half year of 2021, he had several thousand kilometers of biking. And he is a fresh 85 years, I think now, old person who still has, when you put this person in an MRI or a CT scan, you will see there is something wrong. There is what they will call a cancer. They will see the metastasis, but the cancer is there as cells, but this is inactive. This is not an active, aggressive cancer. It's just there, sleeping, in a sleeping mode. And he's 85, so maybe a couple of years later, he will die, but not from the cancer. He will just die with the cancer. So he's now fresh person enjoying life. And he changed the way of looking at the life. So the life is not happening to him. He is creating his life. And this is a much better option. And this way you can use time wave a lot. And when I see the schedule that you had in this days before, you had life coaching. And this is what you learn in life coaching, that you change your perception of your life, that you see yourself as the master of your life, that you are the creator and not the victim, not the sufferer. You are the offender. You have to take 100% responsibility for your life and for your happiness. And the same is with health. Health is not the game at all. So that's the motto here in our clinic, is happy and healthy. So I always try to convince my patients that it's not only health that should be the goal, it's the happiness. Happy people have not to think very much about their health. The happy person does things that are healthy or improving or keeping health. So that's why this holistic medicine is a bit different from the repair medicine, the repair mode regular medicine. We think different. We don't really think in diseases. Yeah, we think is where's the buck that we should take off to create health and happiness. So maybe you have done this example when you went into life coaching. This is one example of a wheel of life. There are many. There are wheels that have 6 or 7 corners. Maybe there are more, 24 if you want. So when you draw a sketch like this for yourself, and you examine yourself, you ask yourself, what is my ranking of my health? How is my love? How is my relationship? What's the level of my relationships? And you go from 0 to 10. 10 is the maximum. Or you take 0 and 100 and can say, well, how many percent is it now? The scale is yours. And then you draw the points in this wheel. And maybe you end up in a drawing like this. So you see, well, health is good, not perfect, but good. And love could be better. Friendship, relationship, also work, job, career, I'm the guy. But personal development, emotions are not so good. The finances are almost bad. And I'm working too much. That's not a really good work-life balance. And my joy is okay. So when you look at this drawing, like really a wheel, and you put this wheel on your bike. Let's say this is the front wheel of your bike. And you imagine how you feel biking, you would see, well, this is not really a smooth biking. There's a lot of tournament, a lot of changes, a lot of noise that this bike will make. So we have to see the areas where we have to improve something. So how can we improve our personal development? How can we improve our the perception of finances in our life? Or to improve the work-life balance, the hours of waking and the hours of living. How can we improve our attitude to life? So this is one example. You can draw yours if you want. Take a sheet of paper, make a circle or one of these polygons, and try to find out where you are in your life. You could do this while we are going ahead, and then maybe after the 2 days, this may change during 2 days. There's one suggestion. Need to put a new column relationship with the time. Okay, if you want, you can put the time wherever in the sector personal development or work, job, career. If you have a very good tool that makes your work easier and more effective. But if you want to use it as for your own personal development, of course, you should put it down there. So there's one more, just a second. I have to look in the chat areas. There was one question I missed. There was a question about the energetic control area and the global information area. Yeah, there are different, very different areas. They have different roles to play in the healing process, yes. In these areas, you find tons of emotional problems, tons of epigenetic pre-patterns or patterns. And there you find also the karmic patterns that you can really get rid of. So nobody is forced really to follow this idea of karma. You can create your own life, and that's your purpose that you should do. We have to find out all these old patterns that keep us in victim roles, and in roles that we suffer. We had, my wife is working the same way. She's a time over specialist as well. And sometimes we work together on the same patients. And there was one young child, I think it was 5 or 6 years old, and was vomiting all the time, had diarrhea, was put to the hospital, so they had to put him in infusions because he was dehydrated from this vomiting and the diarrhea. And the problem of this child was the force, the violation the parents did each other. So they were arguing all the time. And this child was just vomiting the arguments of the parents. So we didn't treat the child, we helped the parents to find a different solution from what they just did. And this was the helpful moment for the child to stop the vomiting, because there wasn't a reason now for the child to vomit. So this is the holistic approach. You have to find not only the symptoms like vomiting and diarrhea, and the causes, having uptaken something that was not good, but we have to find the reasons. The reasons was the arguments and the really violence in the family. I had one patient, a 10-year-old boy who had a cancer near the kidney. It was connecting tissue cancer, sarcoma. And the problem was a pattern that the father was carrying, and the child was just expressing the problem of the father. So when we talked to the father, and without making him guilty, yeah, we didn't blame him. We just said there could be a connection between his experiences and how he's creating his life, and what his son does. Then after 2 sessions, he decided to follow our thoughts, and this was so helpful for the child. So the child was then recovering, and they didn't think of a hospice for that child anymore. So we have really to go back and don't have too much expectations, just find. And TimeWave is so helpful with this. When you take the right databases and interpret the results in the right way, TimeWave is absolutely helpful. Gives the reason for good ideas, for good next questions. So the results of the TimeWave, for me, are always source for the next good questions. So when we find people in our clinic, they have a history. Not only disease, they have a life history. And I will show you one example how I train my patients or my seminar participants when we talk about crisis management, and chronic disease could be a crisis. And then you see a lot of steps. So let's go for the first. It starts with a shock. Something happens that's involving you a lot. Your reactions is, this can't be true. You are just denying or ignoring. No. And what you are missing, or what you need at this point, is security. Then the denial increases, and you say, I'm not going to be involved. So this will pass me. So you need to be present in your own life. When nothing changes, you go to the yellow point, frustration. And then you say, well, I don't want this. What you need is self-compassion. And then you end up in the lowest part of this curve, and the point of despair. And the words you are thinking is really, I'm desperate. And this is the point where it starts that you need some mindfulness. So it's not the blaming other people that will help you. There must be something different. And you see the term survival mode and growth mode there. You are still in the survival mode. Most of the people are in the survival mode. They are creating their life just to survive. That's the people who, when you remember this optimal health or healing curve, who reach point 3, the okay level, and then stop doing something and then go down the dotted red line and ending up in the bad sector. So here we are. This is a choice point. You can remain on this part of despair. You can remain in the state of your chronic disease that you have, or severe disease, or you can change something. Maybe you can do this by your own resources. You find the resources and change something, or maybe you need help. This is my task, to help my patients, but I will not do their work. I just help them find their resources and find their way. So that's why I'm more a medical coach than a physician then, or a therapist. So when we are there, the next, or the most important, is that we do not judge. That we do not judge the situation, the persons involved, that we stop judging. This is the secret for a happy life at all. Don't judge. Then you can say, okay, give it a try. I can imagine that there's something going better, and then you will make a decision and you will integrate the solutions that you find. When you want to give it a try, then maybe you have the idea of new solutions. You need competence. And you can say, hey, this is not the first time that I'm there. I have survived. I have overcome so many bad situations. So what helped me? Who helped me? What was my competence to solve the other problems? So when you can imagine that there's a solution, you can have a decision, you have to take the courage to change things. You take the courage maybe to leave your comfort zone, even in a bad situation health-wise. There is kind of a comfort zone. Even you feel pain, and you have to decide to leave the comfort zone and take the risk of even more pain, or at least changes that you haven't thought of so far. And then in the integration part, this is then easy. Then there is confidence, because you can trust yourself again. And then after this process, you say, okay, I can do this. I can create my life, and I will never reach the point of despair again. And even if I am there for a short period of time, I know how to get further, how to give it a try, how to imagine there might be a solution, or there is a solution, and I take some steps towards this solution, and I know how to handle the situation. So this is a very theoretical way to cope with crisis, but even with severe health conditions. And we have to go back this line and see what happened. What was the shock? What was keeping you back from doing the right things from the beginning? Where are the forces? Where are the obstacles? Where are the reasons to feel blocked, not to react? So these are the areas where we can use the time waiver to help us find the background, so to say. And then when we have found the background, then we can create some optimization lists to change the information field, to enable the patient to take the new information and put this information in the current life and change things. So it's not about waiting for changes. It's about creating changes. So that's why you can't just let the time waiver system run and everything will change to the best way. In my opinion, you will always have to involve the patient. This could be difficult when patients are very much in dementia, or when the child is very young. Normally, you have to involve the patient. You have to ask for the consent. You have to explain the way you would like to go, and the patient has to do the work. That's why the patient should give the consent, because they won't do the right things when they don't know what to do and why to do. And it's not so much the the how to do, it's the why. When the person has no reason to be healthy, they will not reach a healthy state for a long time. We will talk about this when we see the results in the time waver and when we go to these processes tomorrow. But this is a part of the holistic approach, that you involve your client and that you get the client in the, not in the passenger seat, but in the driver's seat of their life car, of their health car. They have to take the wheel and here. So this will be the slide of the way how we work together in the next practical part after a break. So we will look for these 1 to 4 dimensional or solutions. So the R4, how can we address, should we address the symptom area, disease area? Can we address the causes? And of course, how can we address the area of the informational solutions where we have 5+ energies? So I would suggest that we will have a short break. Maybe, I don't know, Mina, you are the master of the schedule, 15 minutes or so, have a break, get new ideas in the brain, and then we go into the concepts of the holistic approach using this slide to go further.
Okay. So we have how many minutes you want?
I would say 15 minutes would be good, so everybody can get some drink and maybe refresh and then come back.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, everyone have a 15-minute break.
So we can start, what is this then? It's 10 to 11 my time.
So for our time is around 5:45, depends. Okay. Now is around 5:35.
Okay, then we go 5:50.
Yeah.
10 to 6.
Okay.
Okay, then you can write your questions that arise in the chat, and then I go through the chat and can answer the first questions already, and then we talk about how we can put this slide into action.
Okay.
Okay, see you then. Enjoy your break.
Okay, thank you.
talk about our findings.
Oh, okay. Actually, the so-called the root cause or so-called reasons is more important for the cancer patient to learn about.
Yeah.
If they only focus on their body side, I think it's very difficult for their safe healing.
Yeah, that is my experience as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And I using do you know David Hawkins' map of consciousness?
Mm-hmm.
This book. Do you know it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So-called energy level of your consciousness, right? I using this database in TimeWaver, and I think it's very useful to help the patient knowing their status.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you just told them, you know, nowadays most of the people need to see evidence. The evidence is based on the machine. The result of machine sometimes more important than what we talk about. We talk to them. Yeah. So I show them on this machine. Oh, I say, oh, this machine told me I have this condition.
Yeah. So sometimes they feel like in a trap, and then now they see the trap and say, oh, okay, now I see why I'm so bad. Yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay. Seems others audience have question. Also is my question, because now I have a case of ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Yeah. Do you have any experience for this kind of patient?
Yeah, I do have databases for ALS that I use in TimeWaver. I will show the specific databases I have for specific impairments or diseases.
Okay. So how about the outcome of these cases?
That depends. That depends on the stage. That depends on the stage when they come.
Okay.
So when they have suffered for 5-6 years, it's a bit difficult. When it's very young, so let's say maybe 2 years, and it's a difference between the peripheral ALS, starting with hands and feet muscles or extremities, or the central, where the tongue and swallowing is impaired. They're a bit different.
Okay.
So which one?
Which one is better? Peripheral type?
The peripheral is easier.
Oh, okay.
The central, with the central part, let's say the anxiety, the fear is very prompt, because they see they have difficulties in swallowing and they have breathing, and even the muscles here get weaker, so the breathing is mechanical difficult also.
Okay.
A lot of fear. The peripheral, they feel the weakness in their arms and their hands, and maybe walking is different, but they don't feel like life-threatened. And the central, they are more like life-threatening.
So you use both TimeWaver med and the TimeWaver frequency, or only use TimeWaver med?
With ALS patients, only the med, not the frequency.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can use frequency. You can use on a physical level. That's just to provide electricity, to provide stimulus or so.
Okay.
But I would not use frequency for changing general patterns. So in ALS patients, I use acupuncture sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
A very specific combination. So it's a combination of 3 or 4 points that was very effective. Supportive, let's say supportive.
So what is the acupuncture site? Or do you prefer?
Say again, please.
I think, which acupuncture site do you prefer to use?
acupuncture site?
Yeah, I mean which meridian?
So in this specific, yeah, in this specific case, it's gallbladder.
Oh,
So
gallbladder.
it's the ting point of the gallbladder. So gallbladder 44, and I take
44.
liver 2.
Okay.
And
liver
triple
2.
heater 1.
Triple is
both sides simultaneously.
Okay.
Starting gallbladder 44 on the left, then on the right, liver 2 on the left, on the right, triple heater 1 on the left and the right, and then keep this for 20 minutes. Only 6 needles.
Only 6. So I repeat again: gallbladder 44, liver 2, and try meridian.
Triple heater 1.
Pardon?
Triple heater 1.
Oh, triple heater. Okay. Triple heater 1. Okay. Okay. Bilateral.
By needle.
Bilateral. Okay. Okay.
Bilateral. And we start on the left side, gallbladder 44 left, gallbladder 44 right. Liver 2 left, liver 2 right.
Okay.
Triple heater 1 left, triple heater 1 right.
Okay. So how can we expect the result after trying the acupuncture? We can keep the muscle power, or even improve the muscle power.
The muscle power and the level of sensitivity in the legs. So improving the walking, the sense of what the plants and the palms are feeling. It's better than plants.
Okay. Perhaps I will try this formula for my patient. If there are any good response, I will feedback. Okay.
Yeah. You can try this the same combination for anything that has to do with, let's say, bronchiolitis or these autoimmune process. A lot of autoimmune processes react on this combination.
Okay, great. Okay. Perhaps you need to start the next section. Maybe we have to start.
I think people are listening anyway, so they get some information. And the question of ALS was already there in the chat function. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then, we start again.
Okay, so Dr. Foka, I think there is one more question from Jose asking about very long. Let me look at it. Before the Tony, there is another question. The question is how to differentiate between good analyze or bad analyze, so he can clean up his list. Okay, so. That is
fear and how adverse impact on the health question, how to differentiate between good and bad analysis. Yeah, this is good. We even start with good and optimal scans, because this idea of improving how we handle this goes through all the presentation. So we really start to optimize the scanning processes, which gives a better result. And in good and bad analysis, we will see how we can name this. But just to get the connection. So we will try to find where we have to look in the time we've met to address the symptomatic area or the disease level, where to address where we find the causes and where we find the reason. At the end, we can create a set or a couple of sets or maybe time waver presets covering all these steps. So where we have a connection to our physical body, to our mind, to our soul, to the spirit world, to the being socially embedded. So all these things will be shown then in a process, in a My Time Waver preset, especially for a first consultation when patients see us that we haven't seen before. So where we really want to know what is going on. And this is the major things that we try to find out on which level shall we have to look. And there are several approaches, and I will show you the approaches I use when people come to me for the first time, or when they have a second or third session, how we can compare the results, how we can see improvements or developments that we would not like to see, because sometimes people are just dropping out. So that happens. Yeah, we are not so much miracle healers. Sometimes we are, but it's good. But it's not our profession. So we can switch to the time waver. So I just stop this sharing and choose another one. Linear scleroderma. Okay, we will address several of these things. So we are live here in our time waver session. So I can close the other one. So this was done at 10 past 8, so 20 minutes before we started. We can record again and see what happened in between. So it's quite good. So what I'm really like to start with the aura photography module, because it shows the distribution of the energy levels of a given patient. So you can use the bar charts. Sometimes I show also this. We'll centralize it. So here we go. Mostly I show this one to see how things work, how things happen. And when we are 70 plus and in percentage here, that's perfect. Sometimes we see people who have very low values, about 20 or 30, then we see where is the lack, where is this energy going, where's the leakage? Don't they produce enough energy, or are they, let's say, letting go too much energy in this particular area? What I always look at is the time frame. I don't know whether you are familiar with the time frames our aura photography gives us. It's always mostly about 7 years sections. So we have, starting with the root chakra, we have the years from the birth to, let's say, the 7th years of age. Then the sacral chakra covers the years 8 to 14. Then we have 15 to 21 in the solar plexus, 22 to 28 with the heart chakra, 29 to 35 with the neck or throat chakra. So this was 35, then we have 42, then we have 43 to 49 in this area. So it's always 7. So 7, 14, 28, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49. So when you're older than 49, you have to think a bit different, but this is more the causes. When did diseases start? And this brings us back to the first thing I said. We have to optimize the way we scan people. So normally you sit with your client next to you, you have the time of the machine, the client is putting a hand on the modes, on the different areas of the time waiver. And then we start the scan for the informational part, so for the consciousness part, for the energetic part. And then we have 2 scans, and this is the basis for every single analysis that we do further on. So when there is something wrong in the first scans, this lower quality will multiply or replicate in further on scans, analysis, whatever you do. So that's why I will show you how I solved this problem, or what I did the last years. And after many, many seminars that I gave to time waiver users, I'm really now sure that we can optimize the way how we scan. Just think of the situation that you have a client next to you where you want to have the first scanning process, putting the hand on it. What are you doing? What are you thinking during this process of scanning a person? So the person is putting the hand on one of these areas, let's say for the consciousness part on the top of the triangle. And then you click the button. What are you thinking at that moment? Because your thoughts and the thoughts of the client will influence the image or the result of the scan. So when you think about a problem that you have and you just do this scan, not really in your focus, so you are not focused on the scan, or the patient is thinking about something about the last holiday and you are doing the scan. Can you imagine that there's a difference between a scan when both of you, the client and you, are focused on what you are expecting and you are unfocused? I guess you will find that it's better to be kind of focused. So the patient, for example, could be focused on the reason why he or she is seeing you. And when there are many problems, joints and breathing and heart condition, then you may ask, so what is the major problem that made you come to my office? And the patient could imagine what is the major problem. And as the therapist, I suggest that you have a very simple channel of focus. Then you think really actively, think while pressing, so to say, the button. This scan or this examination will provide us with the best possible results for this given patient. So just to have optimize the meaning of the scan. So the scan will provide, or is the basis, and you can may also think it's the basis for best possible results for this given patient. So we will really find the odds, or we will really find the way that he or she has to go to get rid of the problems, to get rid in a higher dimension or a higher sphere of healing. So you just sit there, and whenever you do a checkup analysis, whenever you do a scan, whenever you do autophotography, whenever you interfere actively, you get in this focus, this scan, this examination, this shot, when you are in the autophotography, is the basis for the best possible results of this given patient, and nothing else. So not this scan will prove that this is a sick sinus syndrome. This scan will prove the tumors. So do not be any specific. Just be open for any results. The one of the major let's say capacities of the time waver is to lead us to areas where we have not thought already to find a solution. So we need to read the signs the time waver is giving us. And then, of course, you need to know the databases, what is in the database, because what's in the database will show up in an optimization list. So you have to know where this comes from, which area is addressed, and how to interpret the entry in the optimization list for this given patient. So this was the first step, the optimal scan. You focus on the best possible outcome for this given patient. Whenever you do an analysis, a checkup analysis, an autophotography scan, a meridian scan, whatever, or even when you do organ coherence analysis, just focus on this is the basis for the best possible outcome or results for this given patient. Just neutral. So when you have a patient like this, you would say energy is quite good. And I said, no, we don't really know because why this person is here. But when we look at this, we will see there's a the lowest value is on the crown chakra, and the next one is on the root chakra. So we can see this is the grounding, this is the connection to Mother Earth. So where we are, where we get the information or the energy from the earth. And this is the connection to the spirit world, to the universe. So it's the connection to our planet and the universe. So there could be more. Then we can try to find out what is the missing point for this person not to have an optimal grounding and the optimal connection to the upper world. Of course, this is not really a patient. This patient is really healthy. But I took this patient because I know him very well. And so I can ask some questions if we need to ask the patient. So this is the first approach that I have with my clients. I go through the autophotography and we talk about life. So when we see this is 70%, this is 60%, we could say, was there something very special happening in your first 7 years of life? And tomorrow I will show you a technique how to be more precise, how really to say in which age something happens. But now we have 0 to 7, and then this patient will say, well, this was preschool, this was, if so, kindergarten or not, and first year of school. Or maybe moving from one town to another, changing schools, changing friends. This could happen in this area. Then this one is more the puberty. This is the young adult. Then here the heart, this is more relationship, creating a family, building up a family. Then standing in life, communication, authenticity. Am I authentic? Am I telling the truth about me? Am I telling what I'm thinking? am I brave enough to do so? And this forehead, this is more the philosophical part then, and you have the ability to look behind the foreheads of other people. So this forehead chakra is part of what our normal physical eyes will not see, but there's more information. That's why I have this metaphor to look behind the forehead of the other people. So to have a view behind the scenes. This is here. And when you are blocked, when you are not daring to look there, because there's so much danger or so odd things, then this will be reduced. And this is the radical trust. And I don't really know why this is 63. It should, my impression is that it's more. So we will see, maybe it changes. So this is the first thing, not knowing really much about the patient. They, of course, when they come to me, they get a questionnaire. They have to fill in a questionnaire with about 100 questions about their health, about their case history, about their operations, what happened to them, about the remedies they are taking. So this is a medical examination, like a case, really, let's say, comprehensive case history sheets. So this is the first thing I do is the aura photography, and then I go to meridians, just to see the, let's say, the strength of regulation, how good the regulation is done with them. So this is the first impression. We see there's only one that may have to do with an injury that I have on the back. And something that almost nobody knows, we can predict the development here. So you may take any of these columns and just double click. So then you have another scan. And if you double click again, you will have another one. And then you just take the 2 or 3 meridians that keep being out of the normal range. The normal range is this Milky Way here in the middle. Here you have a ruler where you can find how stable these values are. And so about 0.98 scaling factor here, or to 1, you see the major problem. So there's one here and one there, and a tiny one here. So when it's like this, and if you look, when I move this a bit to 98, it's gone. So I wouldn't take this one. These keep being out of the range. And so we load the 2 meridians and start the analysis. So this is quite normal that you do. So the idea of this way is that you look at the regulation, you see 2 or 3 meridians that are out of range. Then you examine the meridian, find the points where the problem has manifested. And then you take these points that make the meridian out of range. You take these points and find out the themes, the topics behind them. So why are they so irritated? So when we have this first optimizational list, or the first result, not optimal, the first result, we can use 2 rulers. One is on the left, down in the left footer here. Here you decide how many points are included in our list. So the more left, the more points are included, of course. I would not go below 50. Normally, I wouldn't go really below 60. But just for our presentation, we take something like 55, and you can choose it by the ruler here, or you select the exact value here on this area. So now we have 7 points from how many? It's the bladder meridian mostly, and only one of the kidney. And with this ruler here in the middle of the footer, you see you can choose the relevance for the points that they need to have to enter the list. So the more left, the lower the value, the more points, the more items show up here, of course. Normally, I have this about 85% in my normal clinic. Sometimes we have to go a bit deeper. Sometimes in severe cases, we have to go a bit higher to exclude the lower values. Because when you have a lot of 90s, then really you can exclude the 80s. So for our example, we can change a bit here. And how many entries you will have, you see it in this section. In this column, selection, you see the number of items per point. So these are the 5 points for this bladder 53. These are the 5 entries for this point. This is the 1 entry for this point. There are another 5, then we have 2 here. When we say, well, it's too little, there should be more entries, then we have to go down a bit. So we take the ruler, go down to somewhere like 80, which normally opens a lot of. And now you see it's not 2, 5, 5, 2, it's 12, 10, 5, 9. So where there was only 1, now it's 5. There were 5, now it's 12. So I think the number of entries increased. And if you want to know the number of entries of your final optimization list, you just add these numbers. So we have 12, 21, 27, 36, 41, 47, 54 entries will end up in our optimization list. So you can go through these items, but what I choose is I create the optimization list and then go through the entire list, not in sections, but I choose the entire list. So, and when you look here in this area, you see 54 entries. That's what we knew beforehand. So when you want to work with a client, you just read what is there, what are the main topics in this life, in this regulation area. You see some remedies, black flowers, other healing remedies, emotional limitations. So this is what the result is. And then you have to get through and talk about what you find here with the patient. So to make sure, what is the meaning of this information given in the optimization list for the patient? Where's the explanation for that? So then you save, you cancel this one, and you go to the lists and find your list here. So we can close this one. No. This one is the list that we created today. You can look at the distribution of L, M, C, and D entries. So where are the entries that relate to the life purpose, for example, or the emotional area, or do we find some physical? Then you look for, this is a high D, this is a physical one, the D15. So you have a mixture of topics that are related to a more physical part, energetic part, and then you have things that are more related to emotional or even life purpose, conceptual things. And so we can come back and compare with our 3 levels. So symptoms, causes, reasons. When you see LMs are not so much on the symptomatic level. They are not on the symptomatic level. Symptomatic is the D, the low Ds. You can find the manifestation of this. And even in a high D, you won't find really manifestations on a physiological level. You have the C30, this is an emotional thing. So we can really have to find out, what does it say to us? So what is the corpus cacti telling us, and this, or what is the hornbeam telling us for life purpose? We will work with the Bach flowers specifically, and I got you a database with a connection of Bach flowers and power animals that we will use. Those who have attended courses in Bad Nauheim, they may have already this database, but those who are new, they will have it now. And this is one of the major array databases that tell a lot about people. So we have here, for example, this Bach flower. If we want to see, look, this is from 98, it goes down to 54 entries, and you have to go, oops, sorry. Goes to 80, so it's a wide spectrum from 80 to 98, 18% spectrum is good. But if you want to know which are the real relevant points, then you do a checkup analysis. And now, remember, this is an active intervention. The patient will not be the same after this intervention. So if you want to read something, if, for example, if you want to read again the oral photography, then you have to do this right now before the checkup analysis, because the checkup analysis will change the person. Checkup analysis means you broadcast information and look for the reaction of the patient. The same is with the matching. So the checkup analysis and matching are active processes changing the information. So you are telling the joke to this person, and this person will be different after the joke. So if you want to see what is the oral photography, the aura right now, do it. Otherwise, we see changes. So we do the checkup analysis. You know all the criteria. You can take the relevances, whatever. In this case, I would only take the relevances. But we have 54 entries, so we really can deactivate those we are not addressing. And then we see which one are the more relevant one. Now we have this one, and we have an LM on the first point as well. We have LM second, we have a C50. So the first 3 are not on the symptomatic level. The first one that has a connection to a symptomatic level is this one. And then we go again up. These. And then the only one that we saw so far, the D1 is that has really a symptomatic relation, is this point number 10. So then when we scroll down, we will come to an area where we see the gray ones, so the deactivated points. then we have a chance to look at this list from 2 points. So we have the deactivated on the bottom and the activated ones on top. This was the core checkup analysis. Normally I do at least two checkup analysis, mostly 3. So if you have a time waver machine, the big one, then you are able to check for energy and consciousness. If you have the mobile, then you are checking for consciousness area. If you are going to a symptomatic process, then it's mostly better to have the energetic protocol as well. As we know that the major part are related to the causes and the reasons, then it's not really a deficit to skip a bit the symptoms and to take the conscious part as a priority. For most cases, the best is just to have consciousness, or if you want to allow the system to change, then you can have automatic process of both. Both means that you have more entries. So there was a question about the percentages that we use in the checkup analysis. So you can check here and you see this is how my choices. So for the middle sector, I have chosen -10 to +10. You may choose 12, up to you, it's not so much. You just hover with your mouse along this curve, and then sometimes at this point here, these lines show up. And when you now take your left mouse button, you can change this area. So now it's 12, you see the result also here. And the same happens with the outer range. You can go to 62, and you see that the point of interest, so the entries that we are interested in are now on this top of the curve between -12 and 12, and left of -62 and right of +62. So what we will not address, what will show up as a gray and deactivated entry are those who are here in this area. So let's have another one. So we scroll up again. Choose this here. So we will have another scan, and I show you differences. We have different solutions. We do this in consecutive ways. So we select every single item, and then we activate all the marked entries. So now we have only marked entries. Now we do a checkup analysis. We take all the entries, we have relevances, and we use our deactivation zone from -62 to -12 and from 12 to 62. And they will be deactivated. So you see 85 is going lower because this is a healthy person. Then you see 85, 85 minus 82, 82. So how does it come that we have a blue and a red mixed up here? So then we go down. And then we have here 62 and lower. That's deactivated. So all these are deactivated. You can choose whether the blue and red ones are in one row or in one section, and they are just taken by the absolute value, like here. Or you may choose to have the red ones on top and the blue ones on the bottom. And this you can change by clicking somewhere to the right mouse button. And you see sort relevances by amount or by value or by absolute value. This, when you choose this one, then you have the blue one on the bottom. Blues on the bottom, red ones on top. If you want to integrate and want to have these values just by the number, just by the amount, you click right mouse button, sort by amount, then you have the blue one and this one. So this is up to you. Mostly I have the selection that I have the blue ones on the bottom. But sometimes it's, if you just work with emotional parts, and when you work with informational systems without any toxins and parasites, then it's easier to have it on the same side. So you know it's a red one and a blue one, but you see the amount. That's more important then. Okay. So this was another choice. Now you have many, many active entries, and here we go, 39 active entries, and the rest 15 are deactivated. You can keep these, and now you have two options. When you want to have another checkup analysis, I would not choose all entries now, because when you choose all entries, the deactivated ones come into the play again. So we want to know the most effective of the activated. That's why we choose all active entries. And the deactivated will just remain deactivated, untouched. We have the relevances, we have the same schedule here. So we are again in the 80s, so it's not that much. The hornbeam, we had the hornbeam at the beginning. And now we go down, we have just taken the active ones. And now we have only 28 active. It was 40 before. Now we have 28 active and the rest is deactivated. So now we have selected, we have shrunk the list of important entries. And if this would be not 28, maybe 70, then we would do the same again, just to shrink the list of active entries. You may keep the deactivated entries in your list. They will be not sent. But if you want to be sure to work just with active ones, just delete them. So how to delete this deactivated? You go to delete here, and the left mouse button will open the menu, and then you just delete the inactive entries. So I keep them here in the list for further purposes. So when you are going to a matching process, you have to consider whether you want to have to deactivate it in your list or not, because the matching process will take also the deactivated and will evaluate them. So if you want to be sure that they are excluded, you have to delete them. So normally I do the matching process only with active ones, so that's why I delete the inactive. So what can you do if you would like to preserve the deactivated ones? So this is our list. So we can say this will be now our list. Apply. This is the list that we were working with. When you take duplicate, you have the list again, a second version of it. So you take one of this, you take the list, original or copy, this is the same, and then you delete the active entries. This is the list of your inactive entries if you want to preserve them. So then you have to rename the list. So this is done by the combination of keys, the Alt key and function key number 2. When you hit Alt F2, you open this window. And you can just add the active entries. Or you just give a different name, as you want. So this is the deactive. Now, consequent as we are, we delete the inactive ones in this list. And call this list active entries. This is just for you to follow my train of thoughts. So when we now apply, then we have two lists. This list with the active entries and this list with the deactive entries. So if you want to go further, we take this with the active entries. And now we can have a matching process. What is the difference between a checkup analysis and the matching process? I think I will show this on the flip chart. So I will stop this and just switch the camera. So I have to make sure that I know the right things to do. When we have a checkup analysis, this is our normal curve. We have the parts that we have here. Oh, this is our part of interest, and these ones. Yes. So when we make a checkup analysis and we exclude the deactivated, so these are the deactivated, yeah, then we will find more of these here. So some of them will end up here or here or there, or maybe some of them will end up here. So no problem. This is the checkup analysis. We just take these, have the same procedure, and they will distribute, depending on their relevance, keep here on top, go to the flanks, or go to the areas and be deactivated. This is the normal section, a normal process when we do a checkup analysis. The matching process is different. The matching process is also a checkup analysis, but it's different. So we have here our curve. These lines now are irrelevant. That's why it's a dotted line now. And we have, let's say, a window on this curve. Which goes from, let me, 60, somewhat like 59 to 60%, and maybe here about 65 or 70. A very narrow window here. Very narrow window. So, and then we try with consecutive checkup analysis to get every single point from wherever it is into this section. This doesn't work. Sorry. Yeah, this one has to go there. This one has to go there. This one has to go there. So every single point has to go in this window. And then you see in green, that's why I take green, the number of 400 or only 50. We will see this in the list. So here you have a checkup analysis, and if this point is not there, it will be taken again and we have a checkup analysis. And we do this hundreds of times until every single point, every single entry is in this final window. So if there are more questions about checkup analysis and matching, you may ask it in the chat. So this is the major difference. So now let's do such a matching process. So this is our list. And when we now go to matching, we can select this window. This is now 62 to 68. So we take our, let's say, 59 to 70. So we hover again, and then this line shows up. We go a bit left to 59. You see it here. And you take the right and go to, oops, 70. So we have this window 59 to 70. We will have 20 entries. Tell a bit more about this when we see the list. So all active entries, no deactivated entries. And the important number now is here, the adjustment 7466. This is very low. So that they are not so, let's say, this rigid. The higher the number, the more rigid this entry is. But we can increase these numbers. You see, when we have the matching process and we allow this window not to range from 62 to 68 or 70, so this was the previous, repeat the previous ones. But if we go to 62 to only 66, So very, very small window of only 4%. So now you have numbers of 284, 162, 118. So the smaller the window, the smaller the target, the smaller the basket you want to throw a ball in, the more attempts you will need to get the ball in. If you have a huge basket, you may have 3 or 4 attempts. If this basket is very, very small, so that the ball hardly comes in, then you have maybe 300 attempts. That's the same thing. The smaller the target, the more attempts you need to get your point in, your entry in this target. So now we have 284. So what is the meaning of this adjustment, of this number of attempts? The meaning is this topic, which is talked about in this given item, is rigid. If you have, like here, 2 digits, 39, you see, well, if you take this problem, this entry, it needs only 33 times to get it in this target area. So it's very volatile, very easy to manage. But this one, it takes 104, this takes 114, 118, 62, 284. So there's a huge gap in between. So you see, this is the entry of highest importance, most rigidity, and these are the next ones. And then you go into the topic, and then you have to know what is meant when you read this entry and you talk to the client. I always ask you to talk to your client, not just doing the measurements, doing the analysis and do nothing with your client. Because when you have an idea what this could mean, the client will have an answer. And so they are part of the process. They are thinking about in this process, and you get definitely best answers. If you don't involve the patient, you have just, let's say, a device that you are playing with. But if you want really to involve the patients to get the best possible results, then you have to ask questions. You have to explain results, not show, do not show the screen. Explain what you see. We will not show the ECG and say, oh, look, a nice line. We will always interpret for the patients to make them understand. So then you go here in this one, and this is a healing gem. So it's a blue gem. It's going about balance. It's going about harmony. Overcomes inertia. So I feel hit because that's really a bit of a problem. It's definitely a topic to overcome inertia. So I'm a bit in a holiday mode after 1 week of holiday, and it's now the 4th day of work. So I'm really in a bit of inertia, and that's interesting that this machine finds exactly that. So we have to work against my inertia. So to repeat why we are doing the different analysis. The checkup analysis is to find out the most relevant items, the most relevant topics. So then you shrink down your list from, let's say, 200, whatever you have, down to 30, 40, not so much more. So, or 50, maybe 50, it's okay. So then you have the 50 top relevant items. And then you want to see which ones will be the easiest or the most rigid when we work with them. And then you do the matching. And the matching tells you with this number of adjustments, how much or how often this item had to be done or redone in the process to get in the target area. And then you can say, okay, this is not only relevant because it's part of the most relevant, so it's in the ranking list of top, it's the most rigid one. So this is where we have to put our focus on. This is the major problem here. And then you go down to the other problems and discuss it with your client. So when you look at the analysis in this way, you have a lot of outcome. You don't have not a rapid prototype optimization list. You have a qualified optimization list. And in this way, you can really have perfect optimization lists by talking to the person, by having a next analysis or a different matching analysis. Matching, you see, I was treated 284 times. Matching process is a number of consecutive analysis. That means the person is involved, is hit with information. We check the answers. Hit is checked. This hit is checked. So if this 400, if this is 500 or even 1,000, this could be, the person will react. So this could create tiredness. The person now is very different from the beginning. You will not get this person in the state of the beginning. So think about what you do. If you want to read things, do it now. Otherwise, with checkup analysis and matching, you change the person. From 60, there's a question, the range from 62 to 100 is a too open window. You get almost anything. That doesn't really bring any results. The most relevant topics you find by checkup analysis, and you take the relevance, and you do 2 or 3 checkup analysis to find the most relevant, exclude or just work with the active entries, do a checkup analysis, work with active entries, and then do this until you have maybe 20, 30 most relevant entries. And then you go to the matching. You can use this for any optimization list, any method. And then you find not only the most relevant, you will find the most rigid ones. So these topics in the life where there's the most resistance to solve. And then you can talk with the patient. What could be the background? Why this is so like a rubber? So why will this prevent from solution? And then you can talk to the patients. We will have these combined databases of power animals and Bach flowers. I will show you this in practical meaning. What can it bring to a person to address the top points in their lives? And as Dr. Tsai said, he had experience with, and you have the lecture, the lecture of cancer treatment. You have to go in the background. Cancer is as I call it, this is a suicide. This is in 98% of the patients, cancer is suicide, but it's not done by shooting themselves or killing themselves actively. This is the killing process on subconscious level. So when you are not allowed to kill yourself, or when you don't dare to kill yourself, then your subconscious mind says, no problem, we can do this in a different way, and then you create a cancer. So the cancer is the stage phenomenon, and treating a cancer without treating the backgrounds will cause metastasis or a second tumor. It just comes back, you get a recidivist, whatever. So we, especially in cancer and all these autoimmune processes, we have to go back in these areas. And the checkup analysis and the matching processes and using the right databases, of course, will really point you to the really subject. So that's why I always say, do not do just optimization lists, be very fast. No. No, we don't have junk food. We don't create junk optimization lists. Yeah, we will have high quality optimization lists. My optimization lists have 30, 40, 50 entries, but they are very well pointed. And then you can have another one, maybe after 2 weeks or a week, whatever. Then you find a different solution. You see the changes. When you have lists of 300 entries and you do the list the second time after 3 weeks, you don't know nothing about changes. So keep precise, as we do it in the clinical process. I'll keep precise, get rid of the unnecessary things, concentrate on those who are relevant, and then go ahead. And if you really want not to forget the things that have been excluded in the last process, take the method as I showed you, keep the deactivated as a separate list, and you can work with them, or you can amend the deactivated to a next optimization list again and include them in the next process. So you can play a lot with the optimization lists just by using the duplicate button. So, for example, if you want to know which ones of these are related to a physical area or an emotional area, or maybe life conceptual. So what is the D, the LM, and the C proportion here? You will not select by adjustment, like here. You can select by potency. So in this case, we start at LM and then go down the way. We go to C and end up in D. So if you want, it's the other way around. But this is the best way to have the LMs, the life concepts. It's not always karmic, it's just life concepts. Yeah, this is what your idea is. Where is your mission? Where are your blockages? That you find in the LM section here. So you can choose this. You can have lists only with the LMs or only with the D section. You can exclude all the Ds. You can exclude all the Cs with the same simple method. So this was our primary list, sorted by adjustment. We apply this. This is this one, yeah, with the active entries. So if we want to select the LM and the C and to work with them in a different way, or the Ds, we do the same process as we did before. We duplicate and duplicate, and then we rename them. So we just click once in this area. And now I would suggest to say active D. It's still the same list, but they will have different results after we work with them again. So just click once there and you will see active LM. So when we want to have this, we want here to have only the active Ds. So we select by potency. So the LM is in front. Here we LM. So D is on the bottom, starting here, the first D. So we have marked the first entry. We press the Shift key and then the left mouse button, and all the entries are now marked, and we delete the marked entries. So in this list, we only have these. We can mark them so we can see them all. So in this list, we only have these. The same we do with the Cs and the LMs. So let's take the LM, this easier. So potency, potency. Then we have the Ds and the Cs. And here's the first LM. So from here to here, delete the marked entries, and we have only LMs. If we want to see them all, we activate this one. So this is our list of LMs. And now we do the rest with the C. So the same thing, sort by potency. This is the LM section. The first C is here, so delete the marked ones. So we have here, there's still one LM left, so we delete this one as well. So now we have the C's. C is good. And now we have here down the D's. We don't need the D's. We delete the marked entries. So we mark everything, so, and apply. So now you have 3 lists, those with the D, those with the C, and those with the LM. And you can work with these lists in very different ways, because this will more go for the symptomatic level. This will go more for the causes, emotional blockages. And this will go more for the reasons, the purposes, the mission, the vision, and all this. So you can have programs for these lists in very different ways and just exclude those entries who are not meant to be there. When you say you want to take causes and reasons and whatever together, and you can have the C and the LM together, okay, fine. D and C, you may do this, of course. Normally I do the D a bit separate. So I work with C and LM because that's what let's say the disease is driving. The D is more the energetic part. Yes, you can look at that, but I would do this separate. I would combine C and LM. Of course, you can combine this. So this is one way to work with optimization lists and get a different result by just having optimization lists. Of course, it's easier to have an analysis, to have an optimization list, to have a broadcasting mode, and then put it and see the patient after 2 weeks. There may be changes, there may be first good changes, but if you follow this process for a longer time, there will be no changes, you will not know what's happening, and you have always a first consultation. So there's not really development. If you want to follow people, then you will see how does this list of LMs change. So when the person comes back next time and you make a checkup analysis with the LMs, then you will see how many of the LMs are brought down to a D level or brought down to a C level and have to be treated in different. So where are the major changes? Or are the LMs down from 90% relevance to somewhere like 60? And again, you can say, wow, this problem seems to be solved. So we want to have not only one section, one session, and do a lot of good things. In severe cases, in long-term cases, in like autoimmune process, you have to consider that this could take a longer time, and then you have to be able to work with all these different meanings that you see in your curve. So what is the potency, what is the intensity, and what is the relevance? There's a question for the more physical interventions, say using needles or frequency. Yes, if there are more Ds, you may choose more physical therapies. Yeah, you can use needles, you can use, let's say, drugs, so plants, phytotherapy, for example. You can use the frequency, yeah, definitely. So you don't need to have to, there's no need to exclude the Ds. But when you want to know why something is there, then the D is not the most say effective area to work on. This could be when you want to reduce the pain, when you reduce the tension, definitely super. Take frequency, do it like this. Yeah. With the matching, we should not broadcast so many times. Yeah, exactly. So when you have, let's say, for example, give an example. You have a list of 80. So I have to add something. I have to change the camera so to tell you something more about the matching process. Just a sec. Yeah. When you make a matching process analysis, then you can decide how many entries will be active and broadcasted, maybe 20. So your original list, any optimization list, you can just optimize it. And maybe this has 60 entries. After the matching process, there's kind of a ranking. So. And then you say from number 1 to number 20. Sorry for that. So number 1 to number 20. This is the part of the list which will be broadcasted. This number 21 to 60, not. Yeah, you see, this is the original list. After the matching process, you have a ranking from 1 to 60 with the highest number of adjustments here. The first 20 will be broadcasted. The other ones not. So the next time the patient comes, or the next time in your broadcasting modus, after the given interval, yeah, you have an interval of, let's say, 8 hours or whatever, you take the exact same optimization list as it was in the beginning. You do a next matching, and then you have again, this is now optimization list number 2, again from number 1 to number 60, and we have another, the 20 will be there. But after this process, these 20 will be different from these, because you take all the 60 entries, or the entire list as it was there, all the 60 entries, a new matching process, and have a new ranking from 1 to 60, and then take the 20 top. So let's say you have 280 as we had adjustments here, and maybe 200 here, or maybe 100 next time. So every 8 hours, or even 2 hours or 4 hours, you do the same process. This could be too much. There is also an overdose in information. So when you select the matching process on your optimization lists, you should have lists that are taken once a day. If you have lists for acute symptoms, like a sinusitis, do not do the matching process every 2 hours. So maybe you have lists every 2 hours, 4 hours, for 37 seconds, 2 minutes, and then one separate list where you have the matching on, and you have it every 19 hours, every 40 hours, maybe for 37 seconds, because why should you treat the patient after this many checkup analysis again for a minute or two? Yeah, the process is done. You have the list, so you don't really need a therapy time after that. So the duration could be 70 seconds or maybe less, because it's already done. So this is the difference. Yeah, optimal matching maybe once a day, not too often. It could be just too much. And the more severe the patient is ill, the more you will take energy from these patients when you have the matching process several times a day. Yeah, this is the process. So the difference between the matching and the checkup analysis and how often this will be done. We will talk about this broadcasting parameters tomorrow. There's one section how to find proper broadcasting parameters, but this was at least a first very good question. What we can do with the matching, it could be too much, definitely. So we can go back to our Time Waiver Pro. So there's another question. Let me see. Body more physical, yes. Or a cardio, coaching with energy points, organ wave screening, all split to 3. Would it be a big group of listening? Yeah, you don't have to separate the 3 all the time. It's just, this depends on what you want, depends on the outcome you want to have with your client. So what I'd like to show you how you can split the lists. So if you want to exclude the Ds and leave them with the frequency therapy, maybe 3 times a week, and work on the emotional and LM parts once in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you can split it like this. Yeah, you don't have to put it all, everything in one list. You can choose from the topics. And the space doesn't matter. So how much the listed, my lists have, as I said, are 50, 60 long, 50, not really more. So that's not a huge amount. If you copy them, then you have 150 in the space, but it doesn't really matter. So my database that I have in Time Waiver right now is about, I think 34 gigabyte or so, which includes more than 2,000 patients and tons of analysis. So it's still easy to handle with my computer, no problem. Yeah. So this was the way how we can choose this, and then we can take these different parts, these different lists, and have a focus analysis, because you can have really different questions for the lists. This is the LM list. This is for life purpose. So what are the essences of life? So what is maybe a database that you can choose for this patient to ask, what is the background? Yeah, in this list, you can really select by relevance or adjustment. This is just as you want. You can ask, what are the themes of life here? Yeah. Then you can choose a focus analysis, and you take any database that you can imagine. Yeah, you can take what I always suggest in courses, just try using the Bach flowers. If you have Australian flowers, Californian flowers, whatever flowers or essences you are familiar with, take them just to train yourself. Don't take the unknown first. So take those you're familiar with. I'm fond of taking the Bach flowers, because here in my area, many people know the Bach flowers, so you don't have to convince them, you don't have to train them. They just understand what Bach flowers mean. Most of them have used them already, so it's very easy. So we are in the focus mode, and then we choose in the system I choose this Bach flower and Krafttiere from my user. You have the same. You have this Bach BFPA database. Mina sent it to you, so we can choose this database from the user segment. Tomorrow I show you how to implement it and how to use it. Now I just show it to you, and we can take 3 or 4 of them. So I need to select this a bit more. So we need the focus, and this is the list we choose. It's automatically put on the focus text here. If you want to work with a dimension, you can choose one. I will introduce you to my way of dimensions tomorrow, so we will skip this now. We will have the intensities and potencies in our optimization list, and we will not determine the broadcasting automatically. So let's go. So the source is our LM list, and now we have a focus analysis for this list, and we want to have 4 combinations of Bach flowers and power animals. So what is the secret? What is the charming thing of these combinations of Bach flowers and power animals? In red, here you see always the Bach flower. The Bach flowers tells you about the life theme, where in which area of life are the most problematic things. So the burden caused by fear of uncontrolled temperament. So breakdowns, I put the marking with so I can read better. Lots of control, stress reduction, all these high tension things. The cherry plum is high tension. So to overcome this, you need the capacities or the properties of a hummingbird. Hummingbird, this is easy times, you know, this is taking nectar from flowers. So this is just ease, lightedness. And this is the very opposite of the stress. So if you use this combination and you talk to your client and say, hey, here we see high stress, high pressure, is this really part of your life? And they would say, of course. And then you say, okay, then I have a remedy for you. Can you imagine a hummingbird? And they would say, oh, yes, of course. I see them in front of the flower and taking the long tongue and taking nectar. And that's what you need. You need this playful, joyful way to approach your life. So the next one is heather. So this is going back to old processes. It's a self-recognition. It's empathy, self-empathy, connecting to people. So if there's a lack, then you need the capacities of an elephant. And the elephant, so the properties are listed here. It's a family animal. It goes to loyalty. It goes to reflection, personal and familiar relationships. So you can talk to your client. If this is the case, I have a remedy for you. This is the properties of an elephant. And you just go, that's why we take 2, 3, 4, maximum 4 of these combinations. And sometimes you find the same Bach flower needing 2 animals, or you have 1 animal covering 2 Bach flowers. Very interesting sometimes. So we have the raven and we have the tortoise, and we have honeysuckle as a topic and the chestnut. But so when you have this, you have to talk to your client, really. Then you get the reasons, you get the causes and reasons, and then you are really there. And with this, you can save this as a list, or you can append this on the list. It depends on what you want to have. This is the focus analysis that we did. So if you want to give it the right name, you would say this is the Bach flower power animal combination to LM, to the LM list. You can use it separate. You can use it, you can append it to the LM list and have one list, and you can broadcast this combined list or put the information on globally on water, on pumpkin seed oil, very, very good carrier. So I like this. So I ask my patients to bring some pumpkin seed oil and inform this pumpkin seed oil so they can take 1 teaspoon in salad, whatever, a day, and so they have the right dosage. This is kind of a liquid crystal structure within this oil, and this is a perfect carrier for this information. Better than water, definitely. So then you can do the same with the C and the D level. The D level I would not focus so much on. Even in people who have skin rashes, and so you can talk about this. You definitely can take the D list and have a focus analysis. You can see, why is this spreading out? Why is this disease or impairment so much showing up on the skin that everybody can see it, that you can't prevent it from seeing, you can't hide it because it's really expressing itself. Then you can use the same thing. You can take the D list, you go to the focus, and take the same thing without dimension. So you have different scleranthus, olive, red chestnut, and you have different animals. So you can talk to your client about this combination. So this is not so much my focus, but if you want, you may do this, of course. And if you want to save it, you can do this, of course. You can hit Alt F2 beforehand, and then you can say, so this would be the Bach flower power animal to the D list. Then you save it. Then you have your list, and it's listed there. So when you document, it's always good to find the right names for your lists. So this was the approach primarily based on the 3-level thinking of symptoms and causes. Somebody is waking me up, so this maybe it's the end of our day 1 yet. Of course, if nobody tells me that we are at the end, normally I go through. Okay, you remember symptoms, causes, reasons. This was one way to allow this thinking and to give kind of a protection in the time with a system. Tomorrow we will continue, and then we go into concrete indications like autoimmune processes like cancer. Yeah, there was one, Sungyan asked me to bring an ALS case. Yeah, I will look for an ALS case so we can look for this, how this developed. So this is the end of this first presentation. You may have some questions, just put them there. So I'm not shutting down. If there are major questions, just write them down and we will answer them. You're welcome. So if there are no more questions, then we are definitely on the end of this first day. So very quick 4 hours.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if Mina has to announce organizational things, she may take the microphone now.
Okay, so thank you for all of you. And of course, thank you, Dr. Focus. So tomorrow we will continue. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, fine.
Yeah, okay.
Then see you tomorrow, 8:30 my time.
Everyone. Yeah, see you everyone tomorrow.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.